I am still getting set up. If you will, please smash that like and share this out. I would appreciate it so much. Hi, Kayla. Hi, E.T. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Lala. How are y'all today? Hi, Dad. Because I know you're there too. Let's see. I feel honored that Lala and them had me playing, especially when the Olympics have started. We have a really interesting case today, one that I've been kind of dreading doing, but I also am going to do it. Hi from the living room. Hi from the bedroom. Hi, Joyanne. But yeah, this case I have been dreading. I don't really like any case that has a lot to do with kids. Um, but it's really difficult to find a lot of cases that don't include at least one child. So I'm going to work my way through it. And hi, JP. And then, yeah. But this one took a lot just researching it. It definitely made me sick. We are going to be talking about another serial killer couple. And I didn't realize how many of them there were, but I guess sociopath meets sociopath, and what do you expect? Good morning, Sandra. Let me finish getting this set up, and then I will get my camera on and we'll get started. Hi, Shawn. Love you. Howdy. I haven't seen that in a while. Howdy. I've also noticed that a lot of the cases that I've been working on, it's so hard for me to pronounce a lot of the names, especially if they're from different countries or something. Some of the names are kind of impossible. There's a few names in this that are kind of hard, but I'll get through it. And if I say I'm wrong, I apologize. Just know that I tried my best. Joyanne with the howdy sticker. I love it. If y'all notice, I did change a lot of the stickers up. So if you are a member, you can go check out some of the new stickers we have that you only get when you are a member. Nicole, I'm finally where I can fix the mod deals, so you are now fixed on there. All right. So I'd like to ask everybody to keep a family in our town in your prayers. The Dingler family, their son went missing last week. He was missing for several days, and they did find his remains. Still a lot of questions to be answered, but definitely pray for that family. They definitely need them. Also, I wanted to share this. If you follow my channel, you know I've been sharing some shorts on YouTube and TikTok and on Facebook. Aubrey Wyatt, she was a 13-year-old girl from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. On September 4th, she unalived herself. We have to say it that way because we can't say the other word. Due to bullying and constant bullying. Aubrey's mom, Heather, was sharing her story and started the hashtag Live Like Aubrey Wyatt. And the family, she didn't mention any names of the girls. She just said that her daughter was bullied. But of course, the internet being the internet, all of the followers went and found out these girls' names and started plastering them everywhere. Even though it wasn't Heather's fault, the 4 families sued Heather, and the judge forced her to remove all of her social media. So she can't even heal, she can't even process, she can't even, speak to her followers about her daughter's unaliving. And I think that is so wrong on so many different reasons. Um, but July 31st, they are asking everyone to wear pink. I don't think I even own anything pink, but I'm definitely going to find something from my mom or somebody. Um, and I'm going to be wearing pink that day for her because my family has dealt with its own share of bullying, and my daughters went through it. So I understand how hard that can be on somebody, especially 13 years old. And this girl was beautiful. If you have not seen her photos or anything, check out some of our shorts that have her in it. She was a beautiful young girl, and she had a lot going for her. And she definitely did not deserve the treatment that she got. So if bullying came with stricter and harsher punishments for the bullier and the family, the parents, because most of the parents know about it, I think it would definitely die down a lot. But it's horrible why some teenagers feel like they don't need to be here anymore because of certain other children. Um, so if everyone will, July 31st, wear pinks. Post your pictures of you wearing pink with the hashtag Live Like Aubrey Wyatt. And let's show her family that we all care about her and we don't believe in the things that happened to her because it's not fair. It's not right. So there's that. Also, we still have Project Christmas going on for the girls at the rehab center if y'all would like to donate. Any of the products on the Amazon wish list, we have the wish list down in the comments down below, and we would love to have your support in this and make these girls Christmas and let them know that people love and care about them. Good morning, Gary. Good morning, Angela. Hi, Bud Files. If I missed anybody coming in, I'm so sorry. Also, our winner for the bi-weekly shout out was Amanda Barrett, and she chose Epic Adventures with Double D. His link is also down in the description. So if you would like to go and check out his channel, we advise you to. He's got an awesome channel that he is currently changing up some of the stuff on his channel. And I love the direction that it's going to be going in. So our prayer list today, please continue to keep me and Cody in your prayers. My daughter Victoria, my mom and dad. Of course, everyone knows my dad has had the DIVIC, so keep him in your prayers. He's had a rough couple of days, but I think he's finally starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel. Prayers for April's mom and dad, and also prayers for April because my Twinkie has to have another shoulder surgery, and this one's going to be more evasive than the first one, so prayers for her for pain and for the healing process and the surgeon and team while they are doing the surgery. For Steph Layne, Debbie McWaters and her family, Melissa and Patrick. Patrick's doing really good. He got a good report from the doctor, and now they're just waiting for him to completely heal up so he can have his next surgery. So prayers for them. Shayna and Danny, Kimberly Adair's family, they found the remains of her brother as well, and y'all know they've been searching for him for almost a year. And prayers for Kim too as well, because her health is not the best right now. For my sister-in-law Savannah's grandmother and Kimberly Lemon's mother-in-law, prayers for her, and send them lots of love and prayers as well. For Sam's Pretty Paranormal, Jen from Eddie and Jen's Vlogs and Then Some, Ghost Mafia's family and friends, Sarah Hardy, Sandra's dad Andre, Rob and Tammy, Wendy's son, and also Wendy's court case, Buddy's family, his mom Betty lost her brother, so lots of prayers for all of them. For Jen from Taro and T, Loretta Houston, Louisa, who just had surgery, and also prayers for Louisa's mama, and also prayers for Mary Pettiford right now. We also want to keep our sis from our other Australian sister, Jenna, in our prayers as well. Dear Heavenly Father, please hear our prayers for the sick members in our community and for all those in need. You know what those needs are. Show your mercy as you close wounds, cure illness, and make broken souls whole again. Thank you for the amazing people in the community who are constantly battling for those around them, and thank you for the people that you have put in our path. We thank you for all that you do and all that you are. In your name, amen. Hi, Sobe. How is the job going? Are you working there now? I know the other day you were waiting on the background check. Okay, there's me. Hi. Hello. Oh, I feel like I'm just like all up in the camera and it's so high up today for some reason. Okay, also I've started a new company. Me and my mama and Layne, hopefully. There's a ray there. Sunshine on a cloudy day. Still waiting for background checks. Okay. All right. Well, let us know how you like it. We are starting a company. I have invited a lot of you to the Facebook group. If you want to pre-order stuff, you can, but we're still in the process of getting everything together, going through all of Mom's old stuff and everything. And this is all going to be handmade gifts that we do, and pin sets and stuff like that. It's going to be awesome. Hi, Itching to Scratch UK. How are you? Amy, I saw a mist around your head. It was probably this, or it could be my angel glow. Either way works. But if you haven't joined that group, Debbie just put in the link. Thank you, Debbie. You're always on point. And check that group out because I think we're going to have a lot of fun doing that. And it's also a way for us to get some income coming in a time where I cannot. So, you also know that I'm not about drama on this channel. So I'm always a one and done type person. So I am going to say something. I've thought about it long and hard. I wasn't going to say anything about it at all. Yeah. I'm sure, E.T. But I was made aware that some people were not happy with the fact that we had a GoFundMe or that we were even remotely asking for money, which I find very hard to understand because I have actually done fundraisers for some of these people before when they needed help. And I'm not going to apologize for needing a hand up. I also think it's wrong for people to discuss that kind of stuff behind your back, especially when they don't even know, because they're not close enough to me anymore to know the whole story and the things that are going on. So I'm not going to apologize for having a GoFundMe and trying to do things to take care of my husband and to keep him with his legs. He doesn't want to lose his legs. I don't want him to lose his legs. I don't want him to lose his life. So, first off, if you're not that close to me, you have no business talking about me to begin with because you have no clue what's going on. But I don't want any drama started from it. I said my piece. I'm going to be done with it. And with that being said, I'm going to keep the GoFundMe up. I'm going to keep the PayPal up. I'm going to keep the CashApp app up because we do need help. We need lots of help. And sometimes you just do. So I'm trying to do everything I can to try to bring in money without having to ask for a lot of money. But yeah, that's it. So one and done. I'm done with it. I'm over it. So let's move on. Hi, Nebsy. Love you too. Miss you. But yeah. So this is one of the cases that I was saying that I was having so much trouble with. And it's, y'all know we've done a serial killer before that was married, you know, a serial killer couple. This one is just as bad, if not worse. And I was having so much trouble with it because of the fact that these people are just so absolutely disgusting. So, Fred West, I'll say I didn't write down a whole lot of what. Don't sweat what people say. You do what you need to do, and God will do the rest. I love you and still praying. Thank you, Laura. La la. It sounds weird when I call you Laura. Lala or Layla only works for me. But thank you. And thank you all for that. I appreciate it. My filters aren't totally. Gary, it's okay. I love you without your filters. It's all good. Um, Congratulations, Itching to Scratch, on being monetized. That's awesome. I'm not going to do a whole lot of background because this is a pretty long story. So, Fred West, he was even horrible when he was younger. Of course, he was raised in a family where incest was okay. He was raised thinking that it was okay to fondle other females, even if they were younger. He was raised thinking women were of no value. And he even went to jail as a teenager for touching younger girls. And when he was arrested, he told the cops, I thought everybody did this. Isn't this normal? So he was raised thinking that that was okay and that it was normal. And Rosemary, or Mary West, as we will call her, grew up kind of in the same environment where women were not treated with respect, or they were treated horrible. And you think that she would want to outgrow that. She would want to get away from stuff like that. She wouldn't want to be around stuff like that. But no, she decided she wanted to stay involved in this. So Fred was married before he got with Mary. And his first wife, he had a child with. And he ended up having other women coming and living there with them. And let me see if I can fix that, because I feel like I'm just like chin up, which it hides my double chin, so I'm good with that. But anyway, he married this woman and he had a child with her. And then he got another woman pregnant, which was their nanny. And he ended up killing her while she was pregnant. And then the wife couldn't take it anymore, so she left him and left him with all the kids. Why would you leave your kids there with some kind of a monster? I will never know, never understand. But anyway, she ended up going missing as well. So we don't know what happened to her. So I gotta take my glasses off so I can read, because I'm getting older and I don't want readers. So Fred encountered Rosemary Letts, and this is weird because their last name is Letts. My Twinkie and Slim's last name is Lett. So Fred first encountered Rosemary Letts in early 1969, shortly after her 15th birthday. Already a red flag, but nope. The pair first met while waiting for the same bus in Cheltenham. Initially, Rose was repulsed by the then 28-year-old Fred's unkempt appearance and deduced he was a tramp. So he was 28 years old. She was 15. That's disgusting. Fred continued to lavish her over the following days as he invariably sat alongside her at the same bus stop. Rose twice refused to go on a date with Fred, but allowed him to accompany her home. In their initial conversation, Fred quickly discovered that although Rose had never had a boyfriend, she was overtly promiscuous. she was a tramp. He also extracted a degree of sympathy for her by claiming he and his two daughters had been abandoned by his wife and that he wished he had more children. So he's telling everybody that he was abandoned by his first wife. So he told everybody that his wife just took off. And I don't believe that, because I don't believe that a wife would just take off and leave her kids with a... You'll see. You'll see. Having discovered Rose worked in a nearby bread shop a few days after their first encounter, Fred persuaded an unknown woman to enter the premises and present her with a gift, accompanied by the explanation that a man outside had asked her to present this gift to her. Minutes later, Fred entered the premises and asked Rose to accompany him on a date that evening. She accepted the offer. Shortly thereafter, Rose began a relationship with Fred, becoming a frequent visitor at the Lake House Caravan Park and a willing childminder to Charmaine and Anne-Marie, which was his daughters from his first marriage, who she noted were neglected and whom she initially treated with care and affection. On several occasions in the early days of their courtship, Rose insisted she and Fred take the girls on excursions to gather wildflowers. Within the first few weeks of meeting Fred, Rose left her job at the bread shop in order to become the nanny to Charmaine and Anne-Marie. Sounds like a pattern to me, doesn't it? This decision was made with the agreement that Fred would provide her with sufficient money to give to her parents on Fridays to convince them she was still obtaining a salary at the bread shop. Several months later, Rose's mother, Daisy Letts, was introduced to Fred. And she was unimpressed with Fred's ego and the way he acted, and correctly concluded that he was a pathological liar. Her father, Bill Letts, a diagnosed schizophrenic who is believed to have molested his daughters, disapproved of their relationship. So a child molester disapproved of this man because he was older than his daughter. I mean, these families are just getting worse and worse. And he told them that if Fred didn't stop seeing her, he was going to call social services. So Rose's parents forbid their daughter to see him anymore, but she defied their wishes, of course, prompting them to visit the Gloucestershire, I can't say this word. Gary, you might be able to help me, I don't know. Gloucestershire Social Services to explain that their 15-year-old daughter was dating an older man, and they had heard rumors that they had begun to engage in prostitution in the caravan. In response, Rose was placed in a home for troubled teenagers in Cheltenham in August 1969, and only allowed to leave under control conditions. When allowed to return home to visit her parents on the weekends, Rose almost invariably took the opportunity to visit Fred. When I was 15, 28 was an old man. If they had a mustache or beard, they were inching. Nicole. So she gets sent away because she will not stop seeing Fred, but yet every time she comes home, she still manages to go and see him. So apparently the parents did not care that much because she was still able to get out there to find him. So, on her 16th birthday, Rose left the home for the troubled teenagers, and she came back home to live with her parents. At that time, Fred was serving a 30-day sentence for theft and unpaid fines. Upon Fred's release, Rose left her parents' home to move into a flat Fred then lived in. Shortly thereafter, Fred collected Charmaine and Anne-Marie from social services. Bill Letts made one final effort to prevent his daughter from seeing Fred, and Rose was examined by a police surgeon in February 1970 who confirmed she was pregnant. In response, Rose was again placed into care, but was discharged on March 6th on the understanding she would terminate her pregnancy and return to her family. Instead, Rose opted to live with Fred, resulting in her father forbidding his daughter from ever setting foot in his household again. Hi, AD. Welcome. Ghoster? Gloucester or Ghoster? Or Gloucester? Gloucester. I'm just going to say Gloucester. Hope that's right. Yeah, because I'm not going to be able to say that. So, she gets pregnant. She is told that she needs to get rid of this baby. She doesn't listen. She goes and she stays, with him. So, 3 months later, the couple vacated the Cheltenham flat and relocated to the ground floor flat of a 2-story house in Midland Road, Gloucester, okay. In Gloucester. On 17th of October 1970, Rose gave birth to her first child, a daughter they named Heather Ann. A speculation remains that Heather may have been sired by Rose's own father. So, there was question that Rose was impregnated by her own dad, who was upset that an older man was dating his younger daughter. Okay, you can see why I had trouble with this one. This one gets a little out there. So 2 months later, Fred was in prison for the theft of cars, tires, and a vehicle tax disc. He remained imprisoned until June 24, 1971. As he served the 6.5-month sentence, Rose, having just turned 17, looked after the 3 girls, with Charmaine and Marie being told to refer to Rose as their mother. So now she is the mama. She's not the nanny no more. She is the mama. Okay, according to Anne-Marie, she and Charmaine were frequently subjected to criticism, beatings, and other forms of punishment throughout the time they lived under Rose's care at Midland Road. Although Anna-Marie was generally submissive and prone to display emotion in response to physical and mental hardships she and her sister had endured, Charmaine repeatedly infuriated Rose by her stoic refusal to either cry or display any sign of grief or solitude. No matter how severely she was physically abused, despite the years of neglect and abuse, Charmaine's spirit had not been broken, which is absolutely amazing. And she talked wistfully to Anna-Marie of the belief that she held that her mommy would come and save them. So these girls still thought their mother was going to come and take them away from all this horror that they were living in. My real mommy would never swear, repeatedly antagonized Rose by making statements about her mother would not do this, her mother would not do that. So anytime she said, my mom would not swear, my mom would not hit us, my mom would not, it just infuriated Rose more to where she would beat them even more. A childhood friend of Charmaine's named Tracy Giles, who had lived in the upper flat of the 25 Midland Road, would later recollect an incident in which she had entered the West's flat unannounced, only to see Charmaine naked and standing upon a chair, gagged and with her hands bound behind her back with a belt, as Rose stood alongside the child with a large wooden spoon in her hand. According to the Giles, Charmaine had been calm and unconcerned, while Anna-Marie had been standing by the door with a blank expression on her face. So, my question is, why, and I know this was a child that came in and saw it, but why were the police not informed of this stuff then? You know, if people were actually witnessing this vile stuff. My hair is just out of control. It's getting too wild. I looked up and I was like, ooh, what is that on my shoulder? Hospital records reveal Charmaine had received treatment for a severe puncture wound to her left ankle in the casualty unit at the Gloucester Royal Hospital on March 28, 1971. This incident was explained by Rose to have been resulted from a household accident. Rose is believed to have killed Charmaine shortly before Fred's prison release, date of the 24th of June, 1971. She is known to have taken Charmaine, Anna Marie, and Heather to visit Fred on June 15th. It is believed to be on or very shortly after this date that Charmaine was murdered, as well as forensic odontology confirmed that Charmaine had died while Fred was still incarcerated. Further testimony from Tracy Griles' mother, Shirley, corroborated the fact that Charmaine had been murdered before Fred had been released on June 24th. In her later testimony at Rose's trials, Shirley stated that she and her family had lived in the upper flat and that her two daughters had been playmates with Charmaine and Anna Marie. She stated that after her family had vacated the upper flat of Midland Road in April 1971, on the day of June, she had brought Tracy to visit Charmaine, only for Tracy to be told by Rose she's gone to live with her mother, and bloody good riddance. Before Tracy began to weep, Giles was adamant Fred was still in prison on that occasion. So, Charmaine now is missing, gone, and she's gone. You know, while Fred was in jail, Rose killed one of his daughters. Killed her stepdaughter. Wasn't even her stepdaughter yet, because I don't believe they were even married yet. Killed one of his daughters while he was in prison. But she explained the disappearance that the daughter went to go live with a family member in Bristol. She informed the staff at Charmaine's primary school that the child had moved with her mother to London. So she told several different people several different stories. So, yeah. Her Anna Maria recollected that when she asked why her mother had collected Charmaine, but not her, Fred callously replied, "She wouldn't want you, love. You're the wrong color." So Anna Marie was told that her mother came and got Charmaine, but she was told that her mother did not want her. Could you imagine the heartbreak that this little girl, because this little girl was always the one begging for her mother to come get them. Could you imagine that heartbreak? But when Rose told Fred about her killing his daughter, she thought he was going to be infuriated. But he wasn't. He was okay with it. He was fine with it happening. So, that just showed right there. They're sick. They're meant for each other. Hi, Mary. How are you, sweetie? Hi, Grinch. How are you? Thank you so much. I'm liking it too. I love the name. I appreciate that. If anybody else came in while I was reading this, I'm sorry. It's hard for me to... Angela, I think I said hi to you, but if I didn't, Angela, I'm sorry. I love you. Let me fix this for a sec. So he was impressed that she had killed her, which is disgusting, especially when that's his own daughter. But you know, people like that, they really don't, they have no souls. They really don't care about the people at all. Okay, Joyanne. So, Charmaine's body was initially stowed in a coal cellar of the Midland Road flat until Fred was released from prison. He later buried her naked body in the yard close to the back door of the flat. He remained adamant he had not dismembered her. A subsequent autopsy suggested that the body had been severed at the hip. This damage may have been caused by the building work Fred conducted on the property in 1976. Several bones, particularly the patella, fingers, wrist, toe, and ankle bones were missing from her skeleton, leading to the speculation the missing parts had been retained as a keepsake. Um, Rena maintains sporadic contact with. Wait, what am I doing here? That's not even the same deal. Okay. On January 29, 1972, Fred and Rosemary married. The ceremony took place in Gloucester Register Office, with Fred incorrectly describing himself upon the marriage certificate as a bachelor. No family or friends were invited apart from Fred's brother John, who acted as the best man. Several months later, with Rose pregnant with her second child, the couple moved from Midland Road to an address nearby, 25 Cromwell Street. Initially, the three-story home was rented from the council. Fred later purchased the property from the council for $7,000. To facilitate the West purchasing the property from the council, many of the upper floor rooms were initially converted into bed sits to supplement the household income. To maintain a degree of privacy for his own family, Fred installed a cooker and a wash basin on the first floor landing in order that their lodgers need not to enter the ground floor, where the West family would live. And only he and his family were permitted to access the garden on the property. On June 1st, Rose gave birth to the second daughter. The date of her birth led Fred and Rose to name the child May June, because she was supposed to be born in May, but she was born in June, so they named her May June. How original. Shortly after giving birth, Rose began working as a prostitute, operating from an upstairs room at their residence and advertising her services in a local contact magazine. Fred encouraged Rose to seek clients in Gloucester community through these advertisements. In addition to her prostitution, Rose engaged in casual fun with both male and female lodgers within their household. And individuals Fred encountered via his work, she also bragged to several people that no man or woman could completely satisfy her. That sounds like a issue. When engaging in adult relations with women, Rose would gradually increase the level of brutality to which she subjected her partner, with acts such as partially suffocating the partner. What? Or inserting increasingly large toys into her partner's body. If the woman resisted or expressed any pain or fear, this would greatly excite Rose, who would typically ask, "Aren't you woman enough to take it?" Ugh, this woman infuriates me. To many of these women, it became apparent Rose and her husband, who regularly participated in threesomes with his wife and her lovers, took a particular pleasure from seeking to take women beyond their limits. Typically via sessions involving bondage, as the West openly admitted to taking particular pleasure in any form of adult relations involving a strong measure of dominance, pain, and violence. To cater to these fetishes, they amassed a large collection of bondage and restraining devices, magazines, and photographs, later expanding this collection to include videos depicting bestiality and graphic child essay. Y'all know what essay is. Bestiality, that's like animal. Yeah, that's disgusting. Rose controlled the West family finances, Fred giving her his paycheck packets. The room Rose used for prostitution was known throughout the West household as Rose's room, and had several hidden peepholes, allowing Fred, a longtime voyeur, to watch her entertain her clients. He also installed a baby monitor in the room, allowing him to listen from anywhere in the house. The room included a private bar and a red light outside the door to warn when Rose was not to be disturbed. Rose carried the sole key to the room around her neck, and Fred installed a separate doorbell to the household, which Rose's clients were instructed to ring whenever they visited the house. Much of the money earned from Rose's prostitution was spent on home improvements. Yeah, freak isn't even the word for it. Just wait. By 1977, Rose's father had come to tolerate his daughter's marriage and to develop a grudging respect for Fred. Together, he and Fred opened a cafe that they named the Green Lantern, which soon became insolvent. When Bill Letts discovered Rose's prostitution, he would also visit to pay to have with his daughter. This is sick. It's a sick family. Oh, so sick. Ugh. By 1983, she had given birth to 8 children, at least 3 of them who were conceived by clients. Fred willingly accepted these children as his own and falsely informed them of the reasons why they looked different. Some of them were different color, some of them were just different altogether, and he explained it as he had relatives, his grandparents or something, were of mixed race. So that's how he explained it to him. When each of the West children reached the age of 7, they were assigned numerous daily chores to perform in the house. They were rarely allowed to socialize outside the household perimeters unless either of their parents were present, and had to follow strict guidelines imposed by their parents, with severe punishment, almost always physical, being the penalty for not conforming to the household rules. The children feared being the recipients of violence from their parents, the vast majority inflicted by Rose, occasionally by Fred. The violence was sometimes irrational, indiscreet, or just inflicted by Rose for gratification. She always took great care not to mark the children's face or hands in the assaults. First, Heather and subsequently her younger brother Stephen ran away from home. Both returned to Cromwell Street after several weeks of alternately sleeping rough or staying with friends, and both were beaten when they returned home. Between 1972 and 1992, the West children were admitted into the accident and emergency department of a local hospital 31 times. The injuries were explained as accidents and never reported to social services. 31 times. I can count on one hand. Well, Layne, she was accident prone. You know, she had a couple of broke wrists. That was from her Heelys and all that crap, but 31 times. That should like alert people, shouldn't it? You would think. Sadly, growing up, I learned that there are many sick animals in the world doing horrible things to people who were going about their... Yeah, exactly. And you'd be surprised at some of them. Some of them would really shock you. Let's see. Oh, my camera's still off. Sorry. Okay. On one occasion, as Stephen was mopping the kitchen floor with a cloth, Rose accidentally stepped into the bowl of water he had been using. In response, Rose hit the boy over the head with the bowl, then repeatedly kicked him in the head and chest as she shouted, "You did that on purpose, you little swine." On another occasion, Rose became furious about a missing kitchen utensil, then grabbed a knife she had been using to cut a slab of meat, and repeatedly inflicted light scour marks on May's chest until her rib cage was covered with light knife wounds. All the while, May screamed, "No, Mom, no, Mom," as Stephen and Heather stood by helplessly sobbing. She stabbed her own daughter several times, but did not stab her hard enough to have to go to the hospital. And it was just light puncture wounds. And then I'm sure she didn't even take care of her afterwards. Even Fred became the recipient of his wife's violence. On one occasion in August 1974, Rose chased after Fred with a carving knife in her hand. Fred was able to slam shut the door to the room as Rose ran into it and lunged at him with the knife, resulting in the knife embedding itself in the door. And 3 of Rose's fingers sliding down the blade, almost severing them from her hand. In response, Rose calmly wrapped her hand in a towel and said, "Look what you've done, fella. You've got to take me to the hospital now." She almost cuts off 3 of her fingers from her irate actions. and it doesn't even faze her. And she still blames him, which he's no better than her. They're both disgusting dogs. But she still blames him and makes it not about her. Crazy. Significant earthquake alert. Hermley, Texas. A 5.0 earthquake in Hermley, Texas. That's like the third earthquake in Texas in the last several days. In September 1972, the West. Okay, this is where it gets hard for me. So I'm gonna try to say this. Hi, Andre. I'm gonna try to say this as I can. You're gonna know what I'm meaning, but I gotta be careful with what I say here. And this is all from here on out. It's just heartbreaking. Hi, Slim. Love y'all. In September 1972, the West led 8-year-old Anna Marie to the cellar at 25 Cromwell Street, where the child was forced to undress, with Rose tearing the dress off of her body because she noted the child's hesitation. She was restrained before Fred essayed her, with Rose's active encouragement. After the essay, Rose followed Anna Marie to the bathroom and handed her a sanitary towel, explaining to the child, "I'm sorry, everybody does it to every girl. It's a father's job. Don't worry and don't say anything to anybody," making clear these essays would continue. Fred and Rose then threatened the child with severe beatings if they ever received word that she had divulged the essay she endured at their hands. Rose occasionally essayed Anna Marie herself, and later took extreme gratification in degrading her with acts such as binding Anna Marie to various items of furniture before encouraging Fred to essay her, and forcing her to perform household chores while wearing devices meant for adults. Devices meant for adults. And miniskirts. From the age of 13, Fred and Rose forced Anna Marie to prostitute herself within the household, with her clients being informed that Anna Marie was 16. Rose was always present in the room when these acts occurred to ensure Anna Marie did not reveal her true age. On one occasion, when Anna Marie was aged 13 or 14, Rose took her to a local pub, insisting she drink several glasses of barley wine. Several hours later, Fred arrived at the pub to collect Rose and Anna Marie. Once they had left the premises, Anna Marie was bundled into her father's van and beaten by Rose, who asked her, "Do you think you could be my friend?" Before she was essayed by her father and her stepmother. That's why I said this one is extremely hard. This one just... In October 1972, the West hired 17-year-old Caroline Owens as their children's nanny. Y'all know what happens to the nannies in this family. They had picked her up one night on a secluded country road as she hitchhiked from Tewksbury to her Cinderford home, having visited her boyfriend. Learning that Owens disliked her stepfather and was looking for a job, the West offered her a part-time employment as a nanny to the 3 children then in their household, with the promise that she would be driven home each Tuesday. Several days later, Owens moved into the 25 Cromwell Street, sharing a room with Anna Marie, who Owens noted was very withdrawn. With all due right. Rose, who had begun to engage in prostitution by this time, explained to Owens that she worked as a masseuse when the younger woman inquired about the steady stream of men visiting her. According to Owens, Fred also claimed to be skilled in performing abortions, should she ever need his services. Owens also noted Fred talked about sex almost insistently. Her suspicions as to his sexual overtones were further heightened when Fred boasted that many of the women he had claimed to perform abortions on were so overjoyed and grateful to him that they would um, offer him services as a reward. When Owens herself became the recipient of West's overt sexual advances, she announced her intentions to leave Cromwell Street and return home. So he started making advances at her, and she said, "Nope, I'm not having this. I'm leaving." And that upset them big time. Hi, Batty. How are you? Have a good lunch, Slim. Y'all enjoy it. Knowing Owen's habits of hitchhiking along the A40 between Cinderford and Tewksbury, the West formulated a plan to abduct her for their shared gratification. Fred later admitted that the specific intent of the abduction was to essay and likely murder Owens, but that his initial incentive was to determine whether his wife would be willing to at least assist him in the abduction. On the 6th of December, 1972, the couple lured Owens into their vehicle with an apology for their conduct and an offer for a lift home. Initially, Owens believed the West had been sincere in their apologies to her and obliged, believing she had simply mistaken their earlier intentions. She didn't. Rose joined her in the back seat with an explanation that she wanted a girls' chat as Fred drove. Shortly thereafter, Rose began to fondle her as Fred questioned whether she had adult encounters with her boyfriend. When Owens began to protest, Fred stopped the car, referred to Owens as a bitch, and then punched her into unconsciousness before he and Rose bound and gagged her with a scarf and duct tape. In her subsequent statement to the police, Owens stated that at Cromwell Street, she was given drug tea to drink and then again gagged and subjected to prolonged essay from Fred and Rose. At one stage, Fred remarked that Owens' genitalia was unusual, and then he lashed out at it with a leather belt. So he was hitting her in her nunu-like area with a belt, a leather belt. When Owen screamed, Rose again smothered her with a pillow and further restrained her about the neck. Quickly realizing the gravity of her situation, Owen ceased resisting and just was there. Like she decided, I'm not going to get anywhere by so I'm just going to stop resisting. The following morning, having noted Owen screaming when one of his children had knocked on the door of the room in which she was restrained, Fred threatened that he and his wife would keep her locked up in the cellar and allow all of his friends to abuse her and to essay her, and that when they finished, he would bury her body beneath the paving stone of Gloucester. Fred then claimed that he had killed hundreds of young girls, adding that Owens had primarily been brought to the house for Rose's pleasure. He and Rose then calmly asked Owens whether she would consider returning to work as their nanny. Seeing her escape avenue, Owens agreed and vacuumed the house to indicate her belief in becoming an extended member of the family. Later that day, Owens escaped from a laundrette she and Rose had entered and returned home. Although initially too ashamed to divulge to her mother what had happened, when her mother noted the whelps and bruises and exposed tissue on her daughter's body, Owens burst into tears and confided of what had happened. So Owens' mother automatically went to the police and they went and they picked up Rose and Fred West. The West agreed to plead guilty to reduced charges of indecent assault and causing actual bodily harm, but But this was only after Owens refused to testify. She decided, I don't want to testify. I'm too scared. So they were given a fine of $50 each, and the couple was allowed to walk free from court. And when Owens heard the news that they were free, she tried to unalive herself. Shut up, Batty. No, it's because I'm actually tired. Yeah. Start calling you shark bait. 3 months after the West assault trial, the couple committed their first known murder. The victim was a 19-year-old named Linda Gow, with whom Fred and Rose became acquainted through a male lodger in early 1973. Gow regularly visited Cromwell Street and engaged in affairs with the two male lodgers. On April 19th, she moved into their home on Cromwell Street. On or about the 20th, the other tenants were told that she had been told to leave the household after she hit one of their children. The story was repeated to Gow's mother as she contacted the West to inquire about her daughter's whereabouts. When Gow's dismembered body was found, the jaw was completely wrapped in adhesive and surgical tape to silence her screams. The two small tubes, which likely had been inserted into her nasal cavities to allow breathing. Long sections of string and sections of knotted fabric were also discovered with her remains. Goff had likely been suspended from the holes carved into the wooden beams supporting the ceiling of the cellar. Fred later admitted that he had devised for the purpose of suspending his victims' bodies, and likely died of either strangulation or suffocation. Her dismembered body, missing 5 cervical vertebrae, the patella, and numerous finger bones, was buried in an inspection pit beneath the garage. Oh, my eyes are watering. Man, this is... These people just keep getting worse and worse. From the later investigation, police and forensic experts concluded that all the bodies found in the cellar at 25 Cromwell Street had been murdered in this location, and that, like Gow, each had been dismembered in this location. 5 victims were murdered and buried in the cellar at Cromwell Street between November 1973 and April 1975. The first of these victims, 15-year-old Carol Ann Cooper, was abducted November 10, 1973. Cooper lived in the Pines Children's Home in Worcester and was abducted after spending the evening at the cinema with her boyfriend. She had been waiting for the bus in Warden when she vanished. Warden? Okay. And was likely dragged into Fred's car, where her face had been bound with surgical tape and her arms bound with braiding cloth. She was driven to Cromwell Street. At the West address, Cooper was suspended from the wooden beams of the cellar ceiling God, before her abuse and murder. As had been the case with Linda, Cooper died from strangulation or asphyxiation before her body was dismembered and buried in a shallow cubic grave in the cellar. Let's see. For some reason, this page is out of order. Over the following 17 months, 4 further victims between the age 15 and 21 suffered a similar fate that endured by Goff and Cooper, although the disarticulation conducted upon each successive victim, plus the paraphernalia discovered in each shallow grave, suggests each victim was likely subjected to greater abuse and torture than the previously murdered one. So they were just getting worse. Like everything went black. How great. Hush it up there. So as they were doing this, they were getting worse and worse. They were like getting more violent with each murder that they were committing. All right. Following the murder of 18-year-old Juanita Mott in April 1975, Fred concreted over the floor of the entire cellar. He later converted this section of the household into a bedroom for his oldest children. And he and his wife are not known to have committed any further murders until May 1978, when Fred, either with or without Rose's participation, but certainly with knowledge, murdered an 18-year-old lodger named Shirley Robinson. Robinson had first met Fred at the Green Lantern Cafe in April 1977 and had taken lodgings with the West the same month. She was heavily pregnant at the time of her murder, although Rose herself, pregnant at the time, initially boasted to the neighbors the child Robinson was carrying was her husband's. She would brag to the neighbors that the child that the other tenant was carrying was her husband's. She soon developed a deep resentment of Robinson's, and the motive for her murder is likely to have been the removal of a threat to the stability of the West relationship. Her body was buried in the garden of 25 Cromwell Street. It was extensively dismembered, but no restraining devices were found with these remains, making a SA motive for this murder unlikely. The unborn baby had been removed and had several bones missing. My God. Shortly thereafter, Rose unsuccessfully submitted a claim for maternity benefits in Robinson's name with Gloucester Social Services. As had earlier been the case with Charmaine and Linda, Fred and Rose allayed the suspicion of anyone who asked about Robinson's whereabouts by claiming she had relocated to live with her father in West Germany. Man. That's... That's disgusting. You kill a mother, but you completely remove the unborn baby is just sickening. That's... The final murder Fred and Rose are known to have committed with a definite SA motive occurred on August 5th, 1979. The victim was 16-year-old named Allison Chambers, who had run away from a local children's home to become the West live-in nanny in the middle of 1979. Chambers is believed to have lived within their household for several weeks before her murder, and Rose promised Chambers she could live at a rural, peaceful farm she claimed she and her husband owned. Her body was also buried in the garden of Cromwell Street, close to the bathroom wall, and although Chambers was likely dismembered, her skeleton was not marked by striations as the earlier victims' bodies had been. In an effort to allay any concerns from Chambers' family, with whom she maintained regular correspondence, Fred and Rose later posted a letter written by Chambers to her mother prior to the murder from a Northamptonshire postbox. So he went to a different place and sent a letter to her mother. Pat, does this remind you of anything? Does this remind you of the last serial killer couple that we talked about? If y'all missed that one, go back and watch it because it was a doozy too. Heather and Mae West became the focus of Fred's incestuous essay attention after Anna Marie ran away from the home in 1979. After enduring a particularly severe beating from Rose to her stomach just days after being discharged from the hospital for treatment for an ectopic pregnancy. The frequency of abuse endured by Heather and Mae increased when both girls reached puberty. Fred was overt and unapologetic in his conduct and would justify his actions with the simple explanation, I made you, I can do what I like with you. He further referred to his intentions to impregnate both of his daughters on at least one occasion, and would occasionally force all his children to watch pornography with him. As Heather, May, and their younger brother Stephen were very close in age, the trio resolved that their father asked either of the two girls to be alone in a room with him. They would only do so if at least one other member of the trio were present to avoid either girl from being assaulted. Both girls also developed a regimen whereby they would only shower or undress when their father was either out of the house or as her sister stood guard at the door. Stephen was also informed by his father that he would have to have adult relationships with his mother by the age of 17, in the event his parents evicted him from the home when he was 16. Although the girls were repulsed by their father's behavior, May, having once endured Fred's throwing a vacuum cleaner at her when she remonstrated against him fondling her. So she threw a fit when he started fondling her and he threw a vacuum cleaner at her. Developed a mechanism where she would tolerate Fred's fondling her, then jokingly brush aside any efforts he made to take the action further. Whereas in her autobiography, May recollected that Heather was affected quite badly by all this, even more than me. A strong suspicion remains that by 1985 or 86, Heather had been forced to engage in intercourse with her father, and by the mid-1980s, she had developed classic symptoms of distress felt by victims of child abuse. These included habits of biting her nails until they were bleeding, drinking alcohol, and warily watching her father through the corner of her eye wherever she was sitting or standing, expressing nervousness, fragility whenever in the presence of males, her sleep being repeatedly broken by nightmares, and her repeatedly bouncing back and forth as she sat on any chair. This distressful behavior led Fred and Rose suspecting Heather had lesbian inclinations, and also resulted in her becoming the increasing recipient of taunts from her father, who had never particularly liked Heather anyway, that she was ugly and a bitch. On the occasion Heather got abused by her mother, Rose would simply laugh at her distress. Yes, he does, Debbie. I think he has enough, but I think he's going for a record. Heather also expressed to May and Stephen her desire to run away from the home and live a nomadic lifestyle in the forest of Dean, to never again see any human beings. Heather did complain to friends about the abuse she and her siblings endured, and her external signs of psychological distress were noted by several of them. Staff at the Hostelcote Secondary School, which Heather and her siblings attended, are also known to have expressed concern as to why Heather, a studious and obedient pupil, refused to obey orders either to change clothing for or shower after sporting events. On one occasion, she was forced to take a shower, resulting in her peers and staff noting her arms and legs, torso were covered in whelps and bruises in various stages of healing. Heather attempted to excuse these injuries as having been obtained in fights with her siblings, but confided in one close friend that they had been inflicted by her parents, adding that her mother considered her a little bitch who deserved the beatings. Have a good day, Andre. By the mid-1980s, rumors of Rose's sex life had reached several of the children's classmates, and although the West children had been instructed never to divulge details of their home lives to their peers, Heather confided to her friends that many of these rumors were true. The father of one of these classmates was a friend of the West. As such, word soon reached Fred and Rose that Heather had divulged details of their home life. including details of her mother's promiscuity to her classmates. Fred was so concerned by these revelations that he began to escort Heather to and from school. After Heather left school in 1986, she applied for numerous jobs in an effort to leave Cromwell Street. By June of the following year, she had pinned her hopes on escaping the household via obtaining a job as a chalet cleaner at a holiday camp in the seaside town of Torgay. She received notification that this application had been unsuccessful on June 18, 1987. In response, she crumpled up the paper and in tears ran out of the room. That same evening, her whole family heard Heather sobbing aloud as she attempted to sleep. And according to May, she cried all the way through the night. The following morning, on June 19th, Heather was back to her usual self, looking miserable, biting her nails, and sitting on the couch, bouncing back and forth as she sat. As her siblings left the house to go to school. When Heather's siblings returned home, they were informed that Heather had left to accept the job she had previously been refused for in Torgay. A story the West also relayed to other family members. However, Rose told an inquiring neighbor that she and Heather had a hell of a row, and that Heather had run away from home. Later, to answer the children's questions about why Heather failed to contact or visit her siblings, the parents claimed that Heather had eloped with a lesbian lover. When May and Stephen suggested they report Heather's disappearance to police, Fred changed his story yet again, saying it would be unwise to initiate a search for Heather as she was involved in a credit card fraud. On more than one occasion, Fred and Rose persuaded an unknown acquaintance to fake a phone call from Heather to her parents. And that kind of tells you why. In the years following Heather's disappearance, Fred occasionally jokingly threatened the children that they would end up under the patio like Heather if they either misbehaved or divulged the mistreatment they endured to anyone outside of the household. With Rose's approval, he later constructed a barbecue pit immediately opposite where Heather had been buried and placed a pine table on her grave for the children of the family to sit upon whenever the West had family gatherings in their garden. That's disgusting. Heather's disappearance. Fred and Rose constantly changing stories about their daughter's whereabouts, plus their allusions to foul play, ultimately led to police inquiries about Heather's whereabouts. These inquiries culminated in a search warrant being issued to excavate the West Garden in February of 1994. In May of 1992, Fred asked his 13-year-old daughter, Louise, to bring some bottles to a room in the first floor of their home. Rose was not present in the home at the time. Shortly thereafter, the girl's siblings heard her screaming, "No, don't." Later, Fred returned downstairs. Louise was found by her siblings writhing in pain, sobbing that her father had taped her and sodomized her. At one stage, particularly strangling her. When Rose returned home, Louise confided in her mother that she had been taped by Fred. Rose replied, "Oh well, you were asking for it." Over the following weeks, Louise was taped on 3 or 4 more occasions, with Rose personally witnessing one of these tapes before following her distressed, bleeding daughter to the bathroom and asking the child, "What did you expect?" Fred also filmed one of these tapes. Several weeks later, Louise garnered the courage to confide in a close friend what her father had done. This friend told her own mother about what had happened on August 4th. In response, the friend's mother anonymously informed the police. On August 6, 1992, the police searched the West household on the pretext of searching for stolen property. Although numerous objects of sexual paraphernalia, were discovered, police did not find a video depicting the tape of Fred's daughter. The 13-year-old made a full statement, though, and a specially trained solicitor describing her father's actions, the fact that the essay had began when she was 11, and that her mother had been casually indifferent to her plight. All the children in the household were placed in foster care the following day. Medical examinations revealed evidence of physical and sexual abuse. The West children also divulged that their mother had inflicted most of the physical abuse, and that their father frequently said that if they told anyone, they were going to be buried under the patio like their sister Heather. Police began a full-scale investigation, eventually leading to Fred being charged with 3 counts of tape, 1 count of buggery, with Rose as an accomplice. She was also charged with child cruelty, inciting her husband to engage in SA with their daughters, and obstructing the police. The Wests were questioned as the whereabouts of their eldest daughter, and although Fred claimed Heather was alive and well and supporting herself via prostitution, Rose initially claimed to have no knowledge of Heather's whereabouts or why she had left home. She claimed on August 11th that she could remember now that her daughter had left on her own persuasion due to Rose's concern for the other children. May discovered Heather's supposed lesbian inclinations. So she told them that Heather left because Rose kicked her out because her daughter was showing signs of being a lesbian. Think not. Rose then added that she had also given her daughter $600 for her to leave the household, before further claiming to have maintained sporadic telephone contact with her daughter over the years. The following day, Rose was granted bail on the condition that she did not maintain contact with her children, her stepdaughter, or husband prior to the upcoming trial. As Fred was awaiting trial, he was held on remand in Birmingham. Learning that her father had denied any wrongdoing, Anna Marie also contacted police to offer a full statement detailing her experiences as a child. In the statement given to Detective Constable Hazel Savage, Anna Marie recounted the extensive physical, mental, and SA she had endured as a child at the hands of her father and stepmother, before agreeing to testify against both of her parents at the upcoming trial. Anna Marie also added that for several years had unsuccessfully attempted to trace her mother Rena and half-sisters Charmaine and Heather. Further inquiries conducted with Anna Marie's husband, Chris Davis, revealed that Heather had confided in him just how unhappy she was shortly before her disappearance and her desire to leave home. Davis elaborated that although Heather had not divulged any details about her enduring any SA, he had been so concerned for her welfare, he had offered to confront her parents, and Heather had dissuaded him from doing so, blurting, "For Christ's sakes, don't, because they'll kill us both." Davis then suggested that they might wish to speak to Heather to garner further details of the abuse. Of course, Heather's not there, so... In their efforts to gather further evidence, police and social services also spoke with May, who, having spoken with her 13-year-old sister and learned Louise did not wish to see her father charged, initially denied she had endured any SA as an adolescent. Police then focused their attention on tracing Heather in an effort to corroborate Anna Marie's claims of SA. But inquiries to the Inland Revenue and the Social Security Department held no recording attesting to her being alive. 2 months later, Gloucester Social Services also contacted police to distress their concerns over the whereabouts of Heather. So they thought this case was going to collapse because Louise did not want to testify. But Anna Marie was going to make sure that they paid. You know, she knew her sister Charmaine, she knew her sister Heather were missing, and that she could not find them anywhere. So the Wests were acquitted on all these charges because Louise would not testify, and she was saying that her sisters were lying. So all their younger children remained in foster care, um, and they were permitted supervised visits to Cromwell Street, despite the West claiming to the few relatives from whom they were not already estranged by 1993 that the charge had been fabricated by police. But the rest of the family members believed it. They thought that it was all true and that they wanted something done. So all this is going on. The police are still watching Fred and Rose. They're like surveying them and everything, and they're watching the house. And they applied for a search warrant on February 23rd, 1994. And they successfully got it. And so they went to the house looking to locate Heather's remains. When the police visited the address on the 24th of February, showed the warrant to Rose, she turned pale before becoming hysterical and shouting over her shoulder to the eldest son, "Stephen, get Fred." Rose became contradictory in the informal questioning as the circumstances surrounding Heather's disappearance. When reminded of these contradictions, she became distraught and abusive, shouting at the officers, "I can't effing remember. It's a bloody long time ago. What do you think I am, a bloody computer?" So Fred comes in at this time, and he sees that the police are there, and they're all there to search the property. He's still trying to explain Heather's whereabouts to them. He even goes as far as to say that she was part of the drug cartel and that they probably did something to her. That evening, the search team, having left their premises and a uniformed officer remaining at Carmel Street to guard the excavation site, May and Stephen observed their parents talking in hushed tones, and they repeatedly glanced towards the garden from their kitchen window. So in the early morning hours, Stephen was about to leave for work. Fred informed him, "Look, son, look after Mom and sell the house. I've done something really, really bad. I want you to go to the papers and make as much money as you can." Shortly thereafter, the police returned to Cromwell Street to continue their search for Heather's body. Upon their arrival, Fred indicated his wish to be arrested for Heather's murder and to be taken to Berlin Police Station to provide a full confession. He was then arrested and then formally cautioned at 11:15 that morning. Fred formally admitted to the police that he indeed killed his daughter, albeit in the act of manslaughter. He confessed to strangling Heather in a fit of rage, then dismembering her body in the ground floor bathroom with a heavy serrated knife he normally used for cutting slabs of frozen meat. And her remains had been stored in the dustbin as he waited for an opportunity to dig her grave. Fred was insisting his wife had no knowledge of her daughter's murder, claiming that he had committed this murder as Rose was preoccupied with one of her clients, adding the fact that the search team had not yet unearthed Heather's remains was because they had been excavating the wrong section of the garden. He then volunteered to accompany the police to the house to pinpoint the precise location of Heather's body. Upon receipt of this confession, Fred's solicitor, Howard Ogden, and Janet Leach, his appointed appropriate adult, informed May and Stephen that their father had confessed to their sister's murder. In response, Stephen slumped against the wall and began sobbing. May entered a state of shock before stammering that her father had not killed her sister. So, all this time, Fred's going on saying that his wife had nothing to do with the murder. And he just keeps on saying that she had nothing to do with it. But the police were there. They were still excavating. He thought that they would stop after they found Heather's body, but they continued to dig. And they found 5 bodies in the cellar of their house. A body beneath the ground bathroom floor. There was, let's see, 4 in the garden, the patio area. And then there was 2 at other places. And this isn't counting the ones that he did before him and Rose had gotten together. So, despite Fred's insistence that his wife had no knowledge of any of the murders, investigators suspected otherwise. Rose was arrested on April 20th, 1994, initially on offenses relating to the tape of the 11-year-old girl and a physical assault of the 8-year-old boy. All right, so she goes on to say all this horrible stuff about Fred. Rose is trying to get him for all of it. And so he gets upset and he's like, okay, never mind, I take back my statement. Rose knew all about it. So then the magistrate courts officially charge her with 9 of the murders out of the 12. So now they both are arrested on murder. The kids have been taken away and properly cared for. But Fred decided he was not going to go to court. Have a good day, Shawn. Love and hugs. So, Fred writes a letter to Rose, West, Steve, and May. And in this letter he writes, well, Rose, it's your birthday, and you will be 41, and still beautiful, and still lovely, and I love you. We will always be in love. The most wonderful thing in my life when I met you. Our love is special to us, so love, keep your promises to me. You know what they are. Where we are put together forever and ever is up to you. We loved Heather, both of us. I would love Charmaine to be with Heather and Rena. You will always be Miss West, all over the world. This is important to me and to you. I haven't gotten you a present, but all I have is my life. I will give it to you, my darling. When you are ready, come to me. I will be waiting for you. This was Fred's unaliving note. On January 1st, 1995, Fred West asphyxiated himself. He took the coward's way out. He wanted to commit all these crimes, but he didn't want to pay for them. On the bottom of the note, he wrote, in loving memory, Fred West, Rose West, rest in peace where no shadow falls. In perfect peace he awaits for Rose, his wife. That's disgusting. So now they only have Rose. And let me tell you, the women that piled up to testify against her, you would be surprised. There was at least 30 women who wanted to testify, and I think there was like 10 that did testify. And they talked about how she was. And after 7 weeks of evidence, the judge instructed the jury, emphasizing that circumstantial evidence can be sufficient in finding guilt, and that if 2 people take part in a murder, The law considers them equally guilty regardless of which of them did the crime, which that's how it should be. You know, if you're there and you're participating in it, even if you are the one that did the last blow or whatever, you're both guilty. He also called Rose West appalling and depraved, which I think those are very nice words compared to what she actually is. So they committed at least 12 murders. There was probably more. They believe there was a lot more than that. They recorded over 108 hours of taped, recorded interviews with Fred. And on all these tapes, he claimed he acted alone, but then, of course, he changed it at the end, thankfully. Rose ended up getting life in prison without the possibility of parole. Thank God. And her children, they do all kinds of things now. They write books, they do talks, and it's crazy how the life that they had when they were younger, it's crazy how they are now and how they're functioning. And I know they're probably never going to be okay mentally because of what their family did to them, but they are trying to help other people, and I think that's absolutely amazing. Exactly, Nicole. Exactly, yes. Guilt by association. But the thing is, how was he going to just go ahead and take all the credit for all this and just let his wife run free? Because you know she's going to continue doing it. You know she's going to end up killing the rest of your kids. And even the children said, and he was the one essaying the kids, but they would say that their mother abused them more than he did. So what kind of abuse was she dishing out that's worse than being essayed? I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. But thank God that judge was like, no, we ain't having this. You're going to pay for what you did. That I was very happy for that. But y'all can see why I had so much trouble with this one. Because I don't like anyone being essayed, period. But when it comes to kids, that is really hard. And especially by your own parents. That's, to me, that's disgusting. It's the worst thing ever. So I'm sorry if I didn't see a lot of your comments on here. When I get into the stories and I'm trying to read, it's hard for me to... Y'all see I already had a hard enough time today. Ugh. I hope I didn't miss anybody coming in, and I tried to catch y'all as y'all were leaving. But this one was definitely disgusting. And it's, no. So today is Friday. Monday, we're going to have one that's not as bad. It's going to be one of the real first serial killers. And it's a crazy story, but it's not like this one. It doesn't have this far. This is like all the research. Like literally, I researched forever on this. And there's a lot more that I could have talked about in the beginning as far as his wife, first wife, Rena, and all that. But I knew I was already in it. See, I'm already losing my voice. I knew it was going to already be a long one with just that, so. Love you too, Mary. Yeah, I don't understand that at all, Nicole. If you have a kid and you don't want it, just hand it to somebody. Hand it to somebody and say, here, I can't do this. They make it's legal. It's legal to just hand your baby to somebody and say, I can't do this. It's legal. But to just throw your baby away, that's wrong. That's disgusting. Oh, I bet that did, Nicole. Yeah, that one was hard, Gary. And there's a lot of words that you can't say on YouTube. So you kind of have to, even though I write it out and I type it all up, sometimes I'm just typing away and I don't even think about it, and so I accidentally leave a word in there. So like instead of saying blank assault, I say SA. And instead of saying taped, when I say taped, you know what it means. Because you cannot say certain words on YouTube without getting your video taken down, so. And they already get demonetized enough. I don't need any extra help with that, so. But this one was a long one. And it was hard to get through. Because it just infuriates me anytime it talks about kids that way. And it's very hard to get through. Love you too, Sarah. Yeah, I know, Nicole. But the thing is, a lot of these cases are not talked about. And it is sometimes because they're hard to get through or hard to get out. But I think it also gives people something to look into, like as far as what to watch out for. If you see kids acting a certain way or whatever, the red flags are there. So how many of you have started watching the Olympics? I know it's probably on in there in the living room right now. My dad and cousin have been waiting on it to come on. I like the diving, some of the swimming. I like the gymnastics, and some of the track. I like some of the track stuff, but other than that, I really don't watch a whole lot of it. I do root for our team though, and they're in Paris. The Chosen series. What is The Chosen? That sounds familiar. Exactly, ET. It's about Jesus. What's it on? I keep up with some of it, but like it's hard for me. I try to stay busy. I try to keep my mind busy, and I try to work on, thumbnails and all that during the day. And because I'm kind of bad about the thumbnails here lately. I want them to be just right. So, hey, Robbie, Yeller. I watch it now and then if I'm scanning through. I'd watch it if they Olympic. Nicole. I'm reading a book right now that is so good. I've already read it like 4 or 5 times, but I'm still reading it again because it's one of my favorite books. And it's by Danielle Steele, and it's called Sisters. And this is my absolute favorite book ever. And I'm reading it again. So like I'm halfway uh through again. But it is such a good book. If y'all get a chance and you find it, read it. I'm watching Little House on the Prairie after this one. Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. This one was a doozy. Definitely don't blame you on that. But all right, guys. So just a few announcements before we get off here. We do still have the GoFundMe going. Also, we have the PayPal and the Cash App up as well. If you would like to donate, we'd appreciate it very much. We definitely need it right now. Again, not apologizing for it. Drama free, drama free. Uh, but if you would like to donate, please do so because we desperately need it right now. Also, check out the new business page on Facebook. We'd appreciate that. And just, yeah, keep us in your prayers. We definitely need them. And we will be back Monday, of course. When they are not on, I just get bored. Oh, you do not only watch us, I see you at other live streams. You're so full of bull. But I appreciate it. God bless you and your family too, Gary. I love y'all bunches. You guys mean the world to us. We hope you know that. And we will see you on the next one. Love y'all. Bye.